Hi, in this video we are going to talk about angles in standard position. So an angle is in standard position when the center is located at the origin and one side is going to coincide with the positive direction of the x-axis. So this is the x-axis, this is positive direction, so one side of the angle is going to coincide with that, and the vertex is going to be at the origin. So in geometry you work with angles quite a bit, but those angles never exceeded 180, because when you deal with a triangle, an angle in a triangle cannot be more than 180, or to be honest, it cannot even be 180. It was always less. But in trigonometry you can go above that, and you can have angles that are not necessarily angles in the triangles. So we kind of ignore often application in triangles. So you can have an angle like this, for example, have initial side here, a terminal side here. This is what we consider to be standard position. So we measure an angle in standard position when we think about that in terms of rotating its terminal side. So we're going to have an initial side here. If we start rotating counterclockwise, and the terminal side is going to be somewhere here. So this angle is going to be positive. But if you rotate your angle clockwise, so initial side is here and the terminal side is here, then this angle is going to be negative. And any angle that you can think of can have multiple representations. Angles can exceed 180 and they can even exceed 360. So first question, give two additional representations of the measure of the angle. So we have this angle here, the initial side is here, it's in standard position. The measure is 54. So what can you do here? You can take 54 degrees and you can add 360 degrees to it, and that's going to give you 414 degrees. Okay. What else can you do? You can take 54 and subtract 360, and that's going to give you negative 306 degrees. So what is 414 degrees? How can you illustrate that? So you see, when I'm going from the initial side to the terminal side by rotating counterclockwise, this is 54, this is where it stops. To get 414, you can go around and like that. So that's the angle that's going to be 414 degrees. These angles are called coterminal. That means they have the same terminal side. Example 2, give two additional representations of this angle. So we have negative 200. So what can you do? You can take negative 200 plus 360. And that's going to give you 160 degrees. Or you can take negative 200 and subtract 360 from it, and that's going to give you negative 560. These are just some additional representations of the angles. You can have infinitely many of them, because you can continue adding 360 or continue subtracting 360, and that's going to continue giving you more coterminal angles. So what's the definition? Two angles in standard position with the same initial side and the same terminal side are called coterminal. And that's what we do. So we are going to either add or subtract 360 if we're working with degrees, or you can add or subtract 2 pi if you're working with radians, or subtract 3 pi as many times as needed. So example 3. Find one positive and one negative coterminal angle, sketch the angles. Okay, so let's do that. So let's do one positive. To get the positive, you're going to do 220 plus 360. That's going to give you 580. So how do we visualize 580? Let's go ahead and do that. So what does that mean? So we start here. This is where our angle is going to be. That's not going to change. But we're going to start here. We're going to go a full revolution of 360 and then we're going to continue going until we get to that angle. This is an angle of 580 degrees. What's another representation? Let's do one negative. So it's going to be 220 minus 360, and that's going to give us negative 140 degrees. And now we want to show, and I want to sketch that angle. So this side is going to obviously stay in the same place. That's not going to change. So now we're going to go clockwise, and that's going to be negative 140. Okay. There's a couple more examples to do the same thing with radians. So we have an angle of 3 pi over 4 radians, and we want to find one positive, one negative coterminal angle. First of all, angle 3 pi over 4 is going to be like this. Okay. So since we're working with radians, we're going to have to add or subtract 2 pi. So let's go ahead and start with 3 pi over 4 plus 2 pi. So what we need to do here is we're going to need to obviously add fractions, so that's 3 pi over 4 plus 8 pi over 4, which is what 2 pi is going to be, and that's 11 pi over 4. And that angle is going to be, that angle here is going to be, we still have the terminal side in the same exact place, but now instead of just going that much, we're going to continue going, and that's going to be 11 pi over 4. Okay. So one negative, now we are going to subtract 2 pi. So that's going to be 3 pi over 4 minus 8 pi over 4, and that's going to give us negative 5 pi over 4. So remember, you're still going to have the same terminal side. That does not change. The only thing that's going to change here is the direction which you're going to go. So with a negative angle we go clockwise. We're going to start here and we're going to end up here. Right. In our last example, find one positive, one negative coterminal angle for negative pi over 6. So let's start by adding 2 pi. So it's negative pi over 6 plus, to make this into a fraction, make 2 pi into a fraction with 6 in the denominator, that will be 12 pi over 6. So negative pi over 6 plus 12 pi over 6 is going to be 11 pi over 6. To get the angle of negative pi over 6, this angle is right here. So 11 pi over 6, remember coterminal side, terminal side will be in the same place since the angles are coterminal. So this is precisely where you have that. But now we're going counterclockwise because we have a positive angle, so we're going to start it here and go all the way up to here. Remember, the direction here does matter because it will determine whether your angle is positive or negative. One negative coterminal angle, so negative pi over 6 minus 2 pi, which is negative pi over 6, minus 12 pi over 6, which is going to be negative 13 pi over 6. And to sketch that angle, remember the terminal side is still in the same place. So now we're going clockwise again, but we're gonna have to go full revolution. So we're gonna start it here, go full revolution, and then go that far. And that is this angle. I hope this is helpful.